So I've owned this Mazda 6 now for just over a week, and in that time I've already learned about things that I like and don't like quite so much about this car. So in this video I'm going to give you the top 5 things that I love and hate about the Mazda 6. But let me be clear, I absolutely love this car and I would recommend it to anybody looking for a family saloon. Anyway, let's get on with the list. So my first problem with the Mazda 6 is that it's having an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is supposed to be. It's kind of sold as a mid-range family saloon car, but it has got executive interior and exterior styling. So on the surface of it you're getting good value for money, but I don't think it's doing the car any favours, because somebody looking to buy a new executive car isn't necessarily going to look at the Mazda 6. It's also a little bit confused about itself because this particular model is a sports model, allegedly. Better just not run over this runner. Which means that the suspension is a little bit stiffer and it's got 19-inch sports alloys. And as a result, kind of going over bumps and lumps in the road, you really feel every single lump and bump. And that's a little bit unpleasant. Yeah, I would prefer a softer ride. And you also get kind of rear tinted windows, which looks a little bit gangsterish, but I promise I haven't got any gangsterish tendencies. And you know, it is a diesel car at the end of the day, 175 horsepower, which is a little bit impressive, but it's a diesel car nonetheless. So how a diesel can be a sport is really anybody's guess. Now, I love the interior and exterior styling in this car. This stitched leather here, the quality of the materials, the solidness of everything, and just how it looks. This is reminiscent of an entry-level executive car. I'm more of a wood person than a sort of metal person, but this finish is really nice. Oh, what's that? That didn't come with the car. The exterior of the car is really nice as well, and again, reminiscent of the Jaguars. In fact, I've heard it described that the car has a look of a cheetah. And of course, a cheetah is a big cat, and a Jaguar is a big cat. I don't think that is a coincidence. I think one of them has borrowed from the other one, and Mazda has not always been associated with big cats, has it? So I have a feeling that they may have been influenced by the design of the Jaguar cars. Okay, so I like the interior in this car, but there are a few things that are really beginning to grate on me. Firstly, there is no dedicated button for folding the wing mirrors in. You fold the wing mirrors in by moving the knob here to this position. When you've turned the car off, when you've parked, you then have to turn the electrics back on to be able to fold the wing mirrors in. Hate that. I also hate the fact these lights here for the automatic transmission are so close to the seat. So if your jacket happens to be kind of forwards like that and covering those, then you can't actually see whether or not you're in park, drive, reverse or whatever. So that's a kind of minor thing and depends on how you wear your coat. But also this glove box here, why is it so impossibly small? It's got huge gaps either side. It could be bigger than this. It's quite deep, in fairness, but yeah, a little bit confused as to why they decided to make that so small. Now, one of my all-time favourite features of this car is the start-stop, which is obviously, let me just adjust the camera, good for fuel economy. So if I just stop down here and press the brake a little bit firmly, what happens is the light changes and the start-stop doesn't activate. And the engine turns off. Obviously, you don't actually have to do what I did. You don't have to slam on the brakes to stop. You just come to a normal stop and put your foot on the brake a little bit more firmly. And then when it comes to driving off, it's very simple. As soon as you lift your foot off the brake, car starts again, and you're on your way. Now, despite what I have said, or will say, depending on how I put this video together, I do actually like driving this car a lot, and I particularly like what happens when you put your foot down. Not that bit, obviously, but the kind of you know, it sounds sporty. There is a lot of pull there. By the way, that wasn't the car falling apart. That was just our crap Norfolk roads. I also like the way that the car steers. So it is very responsive on the steering wheel, and also going around corners quickly, the car does stick to the road very well. So it is a pleasure to drive, as well as being very comfortable as well. Now, perhaps I'm driving this car wrong. Perhaps I put my foot down a bit too much. I'm not too sure. But I'm actually only getting about 38 miles to the gallon in this car, and it's advertised somewhere in the 50s. Now, in my previous car, Jaguar X-Type, I was getting on average about 42 miles to the gallon, and if I did a long journey on a dual carriageway, I could get 48 or maybe even 50 miles to the gallon. This car, I don't know whether there's something wrong with it, but for some reason when I go on a dual carriageway in this car, the fuel economy goes right down. So I don't know what that's all about, but certainly having bought this car a little bit because of the advertised fuel economy, I'm a tad disappointed about that. Now, linked to the MPG, I do like this entertainment system, but it's surprisingly complicated to find out what your miles per gallon is per trip. So you have to go to the apps, then the fuel economy monitor. This tells you about your start and stop time and how many trees you've saved, which is quite interesting. But then you have to go to the next screen to be able to get the fuel economy for this journey, which is 37.5 miles to the gallon. The information is there, it's just very confusing. It's also aware of speed cameras, which is quite helpful.
Reduce your speed.
Okay, I'll reduce my speed. Of course, if you haven't got the latest sat-nav installed, then the positions of the speed cameras are wrong, and it warns you about speed cameras that don't exist, or doesn't warn you about the ones that do now exist. So you've got to be a little bit careful, but it's a really useful feature. And actually, I discovered another safety feature just now. I was reversing out into a road and there was some fast cars moving behind me. I had spotted them, but the car warned me that they were there. It's like the good version of HAL, unless it all does go wrong and it starts trying to not let me leave the car, or kind of suck all the oxygen out or something. So another thing that is quite frankly useless about this car, and quite possibly the most useless thing that the car actually has on board, and that is the voice command. And of course, now I'm going to demonstrate it. It's going to work perfectly, isn't it? But let's try.
Say a command.
Play Ed Sheeran. Ah, yes. Love is Like Oxygen by Sweet. Well, let's try it once again. Play Ed Sheeran. Love is Like Oxygen by Sweet. For the love of God, play Ed Sheeran. Love is Like Oxygen by Sweet. Well, either the car has better taste than I do, or the voice control is absolutely shit. Now, you might think this is weird, but my all-time favourite feature of this car is the keyless locking. And I'm going to demonstrate it to you now. It's so easy and seamless to use. It's futuristic as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let me demonstrate it to you now. So I'm going to get out of the car, shut the door, and what do we have to do to lock it? Well, we just... But that's it, the car's locked. I just had to walk away from it. That's magnificent. A little bonus for you, something I don't like about getting a new car, or a car that's at least new to me, is the damage that people inflict on it. So I've had it less than a week. I believe that is new. I believe this mark there is new, and indeed this mark here, and there's several scratches over here. Now you can see them quite obviously because I have obviously wiped away the mud to see if they were real scratches, but thank you. The milk of human kindness never ceases to surprise me. So that's the end of the video. Do you agree with me that they were the top 5 best and worst features of the Mazda 6? Let me know down below. Do subscribe if you enjoy my videos.
Speed camera ahead. Speed
camera ahead. And I do promise you that not all my videos on this channel will be about this car from now on. We will resume normality probably next week. Thanks for sticking around or joining me if this is your first video on my channel, and I shall see you next time for another video.